Hello, dear ones. Father Peter John coming to you from All Saints Orthodox Church in Bloomington, Indiana. Christ is in our midst. Today I'm talking about St. John the Merciful, the Patriarch of Alexandria. And I'm just going to take a little portion of his life today. I'll talk about him a little more in subsequent videos. But the question I want to ask today is, where is it that a person comes from? What is it that makes a saint a saint? And of course, that's different in some sense for everybody and the same for some sense. We would say, working with God, co-laboring with God, the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. We can name all of these things that contribute to the life of a saint and help them to become saintly. But there's another word that that is often present, maybe almost, should I say, always present in the life of the saints, and that is suffering. And St. John of Alexandria was no stranger to suffering. He married, and when he married, he and his wife had a number of sons. And the account of his life says that all of his sons died in the flower of their youth. I think that probably means their teenage years. I'm not sure. But I think that's what's indicated there. In any case, all of his sons died young. And then after that, it says shortly thereafter, his wife also died. So here is a married man, with a whole family full, a quiver full of sons, children that he loved, that loved him, and all of them died. And then he loses his wife. It's hard to wrap our mind around this kind of suffering. Some of us know people who have had a wife who has died an untimely death, or children that have died untimely deaths, and we know what a difficulty it can be to lose a child or a spouse, especially at a young age. But the thought of losing all of your children and your spouse, it's something we don't even dare, most of us, to put ourselves in the scenario where we can imagine what that would be like. But St. John, having suffered this terrible loss, trusted God in the midst of all of it, and was transformed by this suffering. He, in fact, became so compassionate because of his suffering, because he knew what it was like to lose, to suffer loss, to feel the most intense forms of pain. And so he goes down in history as being called the Merciful and the Almsgiver. He was made Patriarch of Alexandria, and the first thing that he did as Patriarch was he called together those who were working with him, and he said, "Go into the city and go and find and make a note of all of my masters." And they were confused. They said, "Well, you're the Patriarch. Who are the masters you want us to look for? Who's the master of the Patriarch? What are you talking about?" And he said, "I am speaking about those whom you call the poor." He said, "I want you to go and make a list of all of those who are poor and destitute and bring me their names." And so the people went out and they found those who were poor in the city. There were 7,500 families that were suffering terribly in poverty. And so St. John, as his first act as Patriarch, just before his enthronement, after his election, just before his enthronement, he orders that each of those families be given a stipend to help them so that they have enough money for the necessities of life. And after he gave this directive, it says that he was led away and was enthroned as the Patriarch of Alexandria. Quite an astonishing start to the ministry of an astonishing Patriarch. We'll talk more about him in the days to come. Christ is in our midst. He is and ever shall be.